You're watching Global Trade This Week with Pete Mento and Doug Draper.
Well, hello, and we'd like to welcome you to another episode of Global Trade This Week. I am Doug Draper, your co-host, and with me is my partner in crime on the East Coast, Mr. Pete Mento. How you doing, Pete?
Doug, I'm great, man. All you need is love. It's Valentine's Day. I love making you feel uncomfortable. I love making this awkward. Doug, it's Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
I want to start the day off with all this stuff. I got to have the pre-show. I got to just absolutely drill Keenan by making all of my awful assertions of how much I hate Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get to start the show off by getting you all hyped up and angry about drones. You could not have given me a better present today about love than all this, buddy.
Well, I can only control.
Happy Valentine's Day.
I can only control how I react to your nonsensical comments, so we'll just save it. We'll save it. But before we get started, we just wanted to thank Cap Logistics for making all this happen. We give Keenan a whole lot of static on the other side of the fence, and he does a phenomenal job. So please visit caplogistics.com.
Yeah, he does.
And well, Pete, let's just jump into it, my friend. You got two of them today, so pick whichever one you want first. If you want to start a fight at the beginning of the show or the end.
Oh no, I'm starting right off the bat, And hey, listen, it is Valentine's Day, so I'm just going to profess my love for Cap Logistics.
Yes,
puts
there
this
you
show
go.
on every week. And profess my love for Keenan and his beautiful, luxurious, well-groomed and conditioned beard. And profess my love for you, Doug, for showing up every week and putting up with my silliness.
Yes, you are fired up.
I mean it.
You're fired up.
When you have dinner with Mrs. Draper tonight, you let her know that I said I love you very much today. And I love our collaborations every week here on Global Trade This Week, brought to you by Cap. I love our audience too, man. I'm just overflowing with love today. But I had to say all that because I'm about to make you very angry. Doug, topic number one today is a company called Nautilus that has reimagined the whole concept of air cargo. Now, believe it or not, one of the biggest problems with how we have made planes is the concept and necessity of a tubular shape, because that is the easiest to pressurize for cargo purposes because of people. We have to have a pressurized container because of the people who are flying it. Well, the good people at Nautilus want to make an air cargo contraption that looks more like a manta ray, a big, enormous flying wing. Now, normally, this is the part of the conversation when I say if wishes were fishes, we'd all be eating tuna fish sandwiches. But these cats have a lot of money. Not only that, they have orders for these here planes, not the least of which is from a particular African air carrier and from one of my least favorite companies on planet Earth, Flexport, who has actually put money in to buy some aircraft. Why is this such a big deal? They're enormous, Doug. These things are gigantic. And apparently they'll be able to land in regular airports.
Yeah.
Also, they believe that they'll be operating at about half the cost of typical aircraft that currently fly now, which means they will only be, I can see, you can't wait. They will be able to operate at only an incrementally higher cost than ocean freight. So they'll be 50 times faster than a ship and only about 25% more expensive than ocean freight, which means that honestly, this could be a rationally more inexpensive, God, you can't wait, more inexpensive way to deal with one of our logistics issues because they're easier to load, easier to discharge, less expensive. They don't require a person to fly them. They will in the beginning, but autonomously they'll be able to fly in the future, which means they can fly more of them around the clock. Doug, I think we might be there in the future right now.
Yeah.
Your dream may have finally come true. Drone cargo aircraft. Order yours today, everybody. What do you think, Doug?
First of all, there's a designation, in my opinion, of drones versus unmanned aerial vehicle or remotely piloted aircraft, which is what you're talking about. All the things you spoke about, phenomenal. Get it, love it. tubes, pressurization, all that stuff. I haven't seen one yet, and they just have orders against them. But the key thing here is I don't consider it a drone. It is a unmanned aircraft, right? We can get into the semantics of definitions here and there, but listen, what I've read up on it in the time this morning is that you you need some training. It's not a kid with a remote control eating a sandwich trying to deliver crap to people across his neighborhood. This is a completely different level. That's what I'm talking about with drones. Is it a drone? Yeah, possibly. If you have a broad definition of what a drone is, this is a unmanned aircraft that takes skill, training, and expertise to move across the world and land in areas that are also frequented by aircraft and pilots and everything else. So I still think that I haven't seen one. I get all of that, it's checking lots of boxes, but it's not a drone, an unmanned aircraft.
Doug, this is how far down the rabbit hole your heart, your dark heart has taken you, my friend.
Mm.
You hate drones so much that you're trying to change the definition of them, the mere semantics of the concept. You can't admit you're wrong when science has given us this revelation in cargo. I think you might need to have a sit down and just think about your feelings. Maybe, we could have like a Dr. Phil moment about why this is bothering you so much.
Mm-hmm.
I think that maybe you need to, you know what, John and Paul wrote it best. All you need is love. You should sit down for a moment, maybe go to a local dispensary, roll up a number, get good and stoned, and think about why you're so upset about these drones, because I'm reading the prospectus on this. I'm seeing the fact that there's orders. I'm seeing how much money that they're making.
Mm.
All I see are drones fixing an issue, and my good friend Doug refusing to accept
Yeah.
that this is a drone, not an autonomous aircraft
No, that's
solving the
exactly.
problem. But I'm going to leave it alone.
That's
I'm going to leave it alone because I don't want to get into a fight on this day filled with love, Doug.
Yeah.
Filled with love.
Yeah, unmanned aircraft are not drones, right? So if somebody wants to kick out some definition and some long piece of literature that talks about the differences, that's not a drone. That's an unmanned aircraft that requires training and expertise. Not some Yahoo flying around a drone that's going to deliver a Starbucks to his basement while he's playing video games. So I'm still holding fast.
Predator drone. That's what they're called, a Predator drone.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know about you, but I'm not ready to fly a Predator drone. And I've met people that have flown Predator drones. They are highly trained personnel. Just saying, Doug. Just saying. We might want to go to the next topic before you continue to dig yourself deeper into this hole of hate that you find yourself in on this beautiful technology.
Well,
beautiful. What's your topic, man?
Well, I'm also going to discuss false hope, which is basically what we just spoke about. I haven't seen any. It's a lot of razzmatazz, right? But here's my topic, Pete. Is that I had a lot of excitement and hope about the reshoring of different industries and companies out there related to the supply chain struggles. And then I saw an article last week that talked about Peloton. I'm a Peloton. I love doing the indoor cycling. I'm part of a studio. I do it frequently. I love it. Love Peloton, and I get it. And they said because of supply chain issues, we're going to reshore. We're going to Ohio, baby. We're setting up shop, and we're going to kick some ass and take some names. And then a little consulting firm called McKinsey came in and has essentially blown up. Their recommendations are blowing up all of the concept of Peloton reshoring. I'm not going to get into the Peloton thing specifically, but it sounds good. It looks on paper. And I thought a reshoring into the US was going to be happening more frequently. And so I'm wondering what this means long term. To me, when push comes to shove and when it's all about money, let's still figure out where the cheapest place is to be, and the labor market in the US is not that place right now. The quandary, or the opposite side of that conversation, Pete, is the semiconductors and the amount of money that's being dropped into the US with Intel, Samsung, TSMC, and getting all those chip manufacturing over here. And it looks like Texas is pushing hard to land those facilities. I think there's a few in Arizona that are popping up. So I think that is good because a lot of that is automated. You got humans pushing buttons and turning levels, kind of like what Keenan does on the backside here, where you have to have a human turning a wrench in a Peloton factory to some degree. So I'm a little disappointed that the supply chain challenges in one bright shining star about bringing manufacturing back to the U.S. has been blown up by a consulting firm that is all talking about the money and making sure Peloton is affordable so it can be sold to either Amazon or Nike or Apple. So anyway, my point is that I don't think the reshoring, which I had thought that was going to be happening with the way that we are, it's all about the money, Pete. It's not going to happen.
I have a almost equally irrational distaste for Pelotons as you do for drones, in that any exercise equipment where one propels themselves to nowhere, in my opinion, is stupid. Riding a spin bike to nowhere, doing Stairmasters to nowhere, and walking on a treadmill to nowhere. Although I walk a treadmill nearly every morning, to nowhere, I think is dumb. Yeah. Yep. And treadmills originally were a torture device that was used in Europe. They were literally mills. The whole idea was that they would strap you to this mill that you would walk around while it ground wheat and ground corn. That's where the term comes from, for those of you who don't know. The whole point of these machines is an excellent indicator of how America is moving from our economy, right? So agrarian economy to a industrial economy to a service economy to now what is now an innovation economy. Right. The Peloton is an excellent indication of that. The rowing machines that we're all talking about now is an excellent indication of that. A very good friend of mine works at Peloton, and he is, aside from being possibly the greatest karaoke singer I've ever met in my entire life, he sang the Thong Song at the Hong Kong restaurant in Boston before I took him to a Red Sox game a while back, and it was the most entertaining thing I've ever seen anyone do for karaoke ever. They were the result of heightened expectations. Ultimately, that is what that company was. In the midst of a terrible situation, their desire and the need for them was pumped up, and a share price was determined. And now everything has to be done for that share price, when in reality, the market for what they do is being distorted. You'll be able to walk anywhere into any health club, open up the app for whatever it is you want to do on any bike. Peloton, Nike Plus, Adidas, Nordic Track, Pete and Doug's workout, and just hit that app and take your class. It's not the hardware, it's the software. It's not the physically manufactured thing, it's the software, it's the innovation that we're going toward. And the idea that no one has realized this yet is just another great indication of America's blank consumerism. It's the idea, it's not the actual thing. And that people are so overwhelmed with their desire to have this giant, massive, clunky thing of metal in their home because they want to lord it over other people that they've got one is not nearly as important as the fact that getting the workout that they want that they could get anyplace else. The mobility of the idea, not the constant of the thing. Our economy is changing where the mobility of the idea is significantly more important, my friend. And that is where your point comes in. It's the development of it. The development of it needs to remain here in the U.S., not its production.
Yeah. I think there's another little company that was acquired by Meta called Oculus, which I think is having the same type of situation where conceptually it's great. It's about the experience, but a big clunky piece of equipment on your face is ultimately going to be trumped by technology in using things that we already have, cell phones, earpods, the whole 9 yards. So I would think that those two would be somewhat similar.
We'll see, buddy.
Yeah.
Well, that brings us to halftime from our friends at Cap Logistics, and I'm going first, bud.
Let her rip.
So last night, halftime of the Super Bowl, people are all online saying greatest halftime for the Super Bowl ever. Bullshit. That was not the greatest halftime from a Super Bowl ever. It was excellent. And this is a guy who was into hip hop before any of you. Shut up. I was. I was listening to old school hip hop in the late 70s and the early 80s. I'm the one that got beat up over it or had to get into fights over it. I love it. The greatest halftime show in the history of halftime shows was when the late, greatest of all time Prince took the stage. Prince kicked the ass out of halftime when he did the halftime show. You might not like it. You might want to think that last night was better. I urge you to go watch it again. It was the greatest halftime that ever happened. In the rain, when all that crap was happening, they told him not to go out and do it. He did it anyway, and he beat the tar out of that thing. Prince, best halftime that ever happened in the NFL. And if you think otherwise, I will slap the bad taste out of your mouth.
Well, I think this is the show where we disagree because I'm going to have to go with Katy Perry's halftime show when she had the big. Yeah. Did you two do a halftime show at one point? I think they did, didn't they?
They did, and it was very good.
Yeah.
It was very
Stones.
good. The better
Stones, not so much.
U2 NFL performance was right after Katrina. Actually, theirs was incredible when they had the whole 9/11 with the building falling down. That was very
Yeah.
beautiful. But as
Yeah.
far as pure rock kicking its ass, nothing compares to what Prince did.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was on an airplane.
Let the
during
hate mail
Super Bowl.
come.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't see it, so I'll have to watch it again. I was on an airplane during the watched the first half in an airport, and I was on an airplane for the second half, so didn't see it. Hey, this is a quiz to see if you can figure out who made this quote. So I'm going to read the quote, and I'm going to give you 3 names of people that would potentially have said this quote. You pick the winner, the individual that actually said this. So, Pete, years ago, this is the quote. Years ago, a colleague told me the key to your day is to hydrate as much as you can. So the first thing that I do is drink 40 sips of water from my hands in the upstairs bathroom, the bathroom sink. It's super efficient. I drink until I feel like I'm going to throw up water, and I do that every single day. So that amazingly profound quote was either written and said by the quirky neighbor Kramer on Seinfeld during one of the episodes, Shaun White, former professional snowboarder, and I say former because his swan song was this past week, or Peloton CEO John Foley. So you need to tell me which one of those gentlemen made that famous quote.
I'm going to go Kramer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's not correct. Kramer had much better quotes than that. This is actually the CEO of Peloton, John Foley. I'm not really sure what.
That's great.
I don't even know really. I get the hydration and the importance, but it's just a really unique way to describe the importance of water in your body. So I don't know. I saw that pop up. I think it was related to the Peloton, a story I was checking out, and I was like, what the heck is that all about? So anyway,
Wow.
John Foley, Peloton, that's a kick-ass quote going on the wall.
Wow, buddy.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that'll do it for halftime this week. I'm never going to
Yep.
forget that, Doug. And
Yes,
with that, we'll get to our last 2 topics. Thank you for burning that into my brain.
Mhm.
My next topic is something that's very near and dear to my heart as a guy who loves math and a guy who loves process. One of the big problems that we've currently got with all of this supply chain morass around the world is you can't measure something, can't fix something until you can measure its progress. You can't determine how broken something is until you can measure how good it was before and how good it was after. And that requires standards. We don't have any standardization. We don't have any benchmarking when it comes to ports and port operations. Every port has a different standard. Every port has different metrics. There's no one way that we do anything in this country. Why are containers so important? Because a 40-foot box and a 20-foot box is the same 40-foot box and 20-foot box anywhere around the world. And it fits in the same slot on a ship anywhere around the world. 53-foot trailer is a 50-foot trailer anywhere in the world. And these are the types of standardizations that allow us to be successful when it comes to logistics. I'm a big proponent of coming up with some standards when it comes to global forwarding as well. I think, Doug, it's time for us as an international community to come together and to come up with some very, very basic standards. Nothing crazy, just some simple standards on everything from port operations to drayage to gates and how we operate. Simple things, cargo terminals, and I mean just maybe 5 or 10 for each of these to begin with, and then maybe make a decision that every year we'll come up with one more that we agree on internationally until we have these international standards. Until we do that, I don't see us coming up with the type of global cooperation necessary to make this thing better.
Yeah. Yeah, conceptually I get it. I think the better play would be, and it goes back to what you talked on my Peloton comment, is a tech overlay to provide visibility of what's happening, right? And an integration that way. The key thing here in the supply chain, it is, and I've made the point of owning the rails, right? It's not integrated. There's so many people that touch your cargo in different capacities from point A to point B, and none of those are owned, managed, or audited or controlled by one individual or one company or one, like you said, set of standards. And so to flip over all of those different people that are connecting it is really difficult, because there are, here in Colorado, and if it's in Colorado, trust me, it's in other larger markets, the drayage companies that are popping in and out of these terminals could be a mom and pop that's just trying to survive, and it's got 2 trucks and some guys, and they're trying to keep them busy. And to integrate with some technology process or something, that's just not, they don't have time for that. They're not, they're their own boss. And you're going to have some ports are owned by municipalities and some ports are owned by businesses. And oh, by the way, insert some union requirements in a lot of these places with the longshoremen. Conceptually, I think it's great. Practicality, I think we are a long way away unless we find one terminal, and I think it would be small, that we could give this thing a shot. But there's too many people involved with the movement of the freight that are not integrated by one entity to make that work.
Well, you just walked right into my trap with those comments,
Oh,
Doug.
come
So
on.
in order to have an overlying technology solution, you must first start with a simple process. You can't create a digital platform unless you have a process for it to manage and monitor. You can't have a process without standards. So once again, I'm right. And then second of all, there's no way that all of these companies are going to share data ever, because any platform is going to require sharing data until there is a third party that would promise to never share the actual data with anyone or profit from it. And I know we've talked about that in the past. So there would need to be a non-for-profit that would engage with it, which I've discussed in the past with some of the non-for-profit organizations that I've worked with. I hear you, man. These small mom and pops can't integrate. They don't have the money for it. It doesn't make any sense. But if these standards existed, then they could operate within those standards if they were simple and things they're probably already doing. They need to be written down and adhered to.
Yeah. Well, I think standards are there. They're just individual for each entity that touches it. So I don't know,
And
Pete.
they're not individual.
We're not connecting today.
No, you're playing the semantics game with me like my daughter does when she's like, well, that's not exactly what I said. It doesn't matter exactly what you said. It's the underlying argument that you're saying with it. And don't be smart with me, young lady, in case she watches this today.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Doug, take us home, buddy.
All right. Well, this one, I'm coming I want to come full circle. I'm rooting for these guys. And we've talked about it before, right? The United States Postal Service. And so I don't think there's a topic, Pete, I'm going to put an aside here, that we've been completely aligned, a show that we haven't been aligned on in every single one of our topics, except for this one today, because I know you love the post office, and I so desperately want to root for these guys, right? I want them to succeed, but God bless it. The post office, it's right in front of you, the solution to all of your problems, the packages that are out there, the opportunity. If you just got things together, you could grab it. Right. So here's a couple of quotes I came up with. Right. So the post office, USPS, Q4, 10% drop in volume, quarter over quarter, and an 8% drop in revenue. Okay. I'm like, how is that possible with the consumer buying habits there are right now? And then you look at UPS earnings. This is CNBC. 11% increase in revenue, 11% increase in revenue per piece, and they're only going to focus on lucrative business and not care about volume, which could be problematic for the average Joe out there trying to get their product from A to B. FedEx, record Q4, full year results off the charts. They are going to focus on the greatest growth and the highest return entities. So I'm afraid that the post office just isn't finding their mojo, right? This is the Hertz and Avis, the FedEx, the UPS. There needs to be a third party in there, just like you said, that would be a nonprofit, which I guess the post office is a nonprofit because they're not making any money, and they need competition. I just don't understand how they couldn't and still cannot embrace the opportunity that's in front of them. And DeJoy, who is the Postmaster General, Lou. I just found this out today, Pete, looking at this. Like, the president cannot hire and fire. It's a group of people that are appointed. There's a 9 panel, needs to be a majority. And we don't even have 9 people on the board right now. So not only can the president or individuals not make a decision, it needs to be a committee, and the committee's not even organized. So I think as FedEx and UPS are going to be kicking ass and taking names, all the reports say nothing but blue skies ahead. The post office just doesn't get it. I don't understand. It's right in front of them for the taking, and they're just not getting their act together. I want to root for them, Pete, but it's just disappointing.
So the U.S. Postal Service is almost like a regulated U.S. utility. It's been considered something that is essential to the U.S. way of life. And it had been for so long. You have to remember that it predates any of these other services that you're talking about. And there are a number of antiquated regulations that are in place in order to make sure that it doesn't get out of hand. Many of those regulations stand in the way of the sweeping reforms that you're talking about doing. And the post office themselves would agree with you that they would like to embrace a lot of the reforms that you're talking about and the sweeping changes necessary in order to get them where they want to be. There are regulatory changes that would have to change, sweeping ones. There are some really big transformative changes that would have to be made in the way that they're organized. And there are some changes that would need to be made in how they report in order to have those happen. And it would require giving them some autonomy that they currently don't have as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be to the detriment of how they used to actually operate. I don't think they have to operate that way anymore. And if they operated closer to a model like FedEx and like UPS, we would lose a lot of that reliability that we take for granted now. I don't think we need it anymore. So I'm with you on this one, Doug. There needs to be a drastic shakeup of what's going on with the U.S. Postal Service. I think what comes out of it is a much more competitive version. And I think that it would be to the benefit of all American consumers. In order for that to happen, Congress has to give them the right and the ability to do that. And it's just not they couldn't agree on what colored toilet paper needs to go in the congressional toilets right now. There'd be an argument about it. So I'm not sure that that's going to happen anytime soon. They're doing the best they can with the regulations in front of them,
buddy. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Pete, hold on a second. They just sent me a fax, right? The post office just sent me a fax right here that says, thanks for your acknowledgement that we're trying to make changes. It's the same fax that I got 10 years ago about the same topic. It's not going to change. I wish it would. I'm rooting for them. It's not going to happen.
Carrot Top's a comic too, Doug. Nobody thinks he's funny either.
Speaking of Carrot Top,
and with that desperate,
guy.
Yeah. With that desperate attempt at humor, I think that'll do it for us this week at Global Trade this week. For all you lovers out there, for all of you people, just desperate to be able to show the world how much you love them, I'm telling you, don't forget those people in your life that maybe you overlook about how much you care about them. Your kids, your parents, your brothers, your sisters, the people that are in your life that you care about. Let them know you love them. This is a great time to do that. It's not just about the people that you have, your partners in your life. Let the people know that are out there that you love them. It's a mid holiday anyway. All right. So let's take it to the hilt. Let's take it to the fullest extent. Doug, I love you. Keenan, I love you. Listeners, watchers, I love you as well. Cap Logistics, I love you. I love all you people. So thank you all for listening. Doug, I can't wait again for next week. You are the wind beneath my wings.
I love it.
Actually, I'm hoping I'll be on next week. Mardi Gras season does start for me on Thursday, so
Oof,
we'll see if I show up to the show sober.
that could be. Yes, let's hope. Let's hope.
Let's hope, buddy. Let's hope.
If nothing
Thanks,
else.
Keenan. Thanks, buddy.
All
As
right.
always, it's always fun. We'll see
See
you
you,
next
Pete.
week for another episode of Global Trade This Week. See you, buddy.
Thanks, guys.